The situation of the woman was generally far from rosy in the Middle Ages. A woman passed from being the property of her father to being the property of her husband. In the lower classes of society, to which most people belonged, like farmers, workers, etc., the life expectancy of women was significantly lower than that of men. For example, the life expectancy of a woman was more or less 25 years, 10 years less than those of men. It was commonly accepted by society for a husband to beat his wife. It was not even considered to be a crime. However, we know that in those days, Franciscans were always at the forefront in the fight for human rights. Of course, St. Francis in primis, but also St. Anthony, and later on St. Bernardine of Siena. But in the stories that I am telling you, the stories of St. Anthony's miracles, we can see that Anthony was constantly, always on the side of the woman. We are now in the chapter room of the Archiconfraternity of St. Anthony, and we are standing in front of a very precious fresco by Titian, who painted it in 1511. It describes a dramatic episode which, through St. Anthony's intervention, had a happy ending. This miracle took place in a city in Tuscany. There was a knight in the area who was outstanding for his nobility and wealth, but who became easily violent and angry. One day, his wife, who was a really virtuous woman, probably replied him in a harshly way, who knows, and he was overcome with rage. He beat her, raining punches and kicks upon her. He dragged her by the hair all through the house. Eventually, he even stabbed her, leaving her at the point of death. Servants and family members picked up the woman and gently laid her down on a bed. In the meantime, the knight began to regret his beastly behavior and ran to St. Anthony. The man fervently begged St. Anthony to come and help his poor wife. The saint hurried to the house together with the husband. He knelt, down in front of the bed of the woman and asked God to give the dying woman life and health. When Anthony's prayer was over, she rose up completely well again. As you can see, the fresco is divided into scenes. In the foreground, we can see the knight brandishing his knife and dragging the poor woman by the hair, while a stream of blood flows from her breast. Far in the background, we can see the knight kneeling in front of St. Anthony. He bitterly regrets his violent deed and he's desperately asking the saint to heal his wife. The miracle of the violent husband who stabs his wife is also portrayed in one of the reliefs that are all around the tomb of St. Anthony. This in particular was made by a Paduan sculptor called Giovanni Rubino, who however died before finishing the work, and so the work had to be finished by another artist, Silvio Cosini, in 1536. Please note the dramatic scene, so you can see the husband with the knife and then the poor woman who is fainting and is already been wounded on her chest, and you can see the wound quite clearly. This miracle invites us to reflect on the condition of women today. We have to acknowledge that, unfortunately, we are still living in a society where women are discriminated against or undervalued solely on the ground of their gender. Certainly not much is done to promote a culture that recognizes equality between men and women in legal terms, but also in our daily lives. Of course, progress has been made. We no longer live in St. Anthony's times. However, the world is still confronted with old and new forms of violence and slavery directed against women. For example, we can say the forced prostitution, human trafficking, kidnapping of young women, forced marriages, forced conversions, and forced abortions. And of course, we have also to acknowledge domestic violence and killing of women. In one of his sermons, Anthony writes, "Women are of greater piety than men, and more quickly shed tears and have stronger memories. These three properties denote compassion for one's neighbor, the devotion of tears, and the remembrance of the Lord's passion. Blessed are these souls who have these three properties." And now, let's go to pray in front of St. Anthony's tomb. St. Anthony, you were a defender of women. Help us to see the strength and goodness in all women and men, and transform our hearts to celebrate the love and grace of all people. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end.